Alright, so I'm back with another video on the 20 most ridiculous moments that happen on Hell's Kitchen. And what this contestant did to Chef Ramsay was shocking. Mike Aresta was a contestant in Season 12 who ranked in 17th place. Mike was also one of the worst chefs on Hell's Kitchen. He had absolutely no collaborative skills and would disrespect not only his teammates, but also the famous chef. From day one, Mike's attitude was so awful that it was evident that he didn't care about anything. During the Signature Dish Challenge, he was the 4th person to have his dish judged by Chef Ramsay. And he went up against Kasia Zollicoffer. To prove his skills as a chef, Mike presented tortellini with tomatoes. Mike said that he had used packaged cheese instead of something fresh. Chef Ramsay was already grossed out, but he was stunned when Mike revealed that the tomato sauce was canned. Basically, his entire dish wasn't fresh. And the only thing Chef Ramsay could think of doing was this.
Come on, that was a joke.
Mike, who lost the round to Kasia, was offended with Chef Ramsay's reaction to his dish. Instead of just going back in line, Mike started to vent about the incident, which was all heard by Ramsay. Well, obviously, it didn't really go well from there.
What did you just say? Yeah, okay. You got anything to say to me? Say it to my face, not my back. Got it. Off.
The first 2 days, Mike wasn't really seen much. However, on day 2, he was seen apologizing to a table after Jean-Philippe forced him to. Apparently, Mike had served the dish to the wrong table. Then we saw him far more on the 3rd day onwards. During the dinner service, Mike was at the fish station with Chris Eversole. At one point, he told Chris to drop the scallops even though Chris said it wasn't on order. As a result, Mike became confused like an idiot.
No, not on this one. It's a f***ing risotto. Now you confuse me.
This was just the beginning of Mike's downfall. Later, he sent out an encrusted halibut that Chris had forgotten to put on. Soon after, Mike delivered another halibut, but had to refire it because Michael DeMarco forgot to leave the bone on the chicken. Anyway, that night, the blue team was kicked out of the kitchen after making several mistakes. During the deliberations, Chris accused Mike of doing nothing the entire night. When Mike reminded Chris about wanting to lead, Jason Zapoltis reminded him that he just stood around doing absolutely nothing. Mike then picked Michael Gabriel for nomination for doing the same amount of work as he did. But Gabriel accused him, like everyone else, of being idle the entire time. But Mike didn't take the criticism very well. He started to get angry, but the blue team was done with him. Soon, things got intense when Jason gave a little message to Mike.
Go back to the grocery store, bud. He doesn't get work to the grocery store.
Mike was the undisputed nominee from the blue team, but surprisingly, he survived elimination. Not really because Chef Ramsay thought that he deserved to continue, but because Simone Hammond decided to leave. However, the next day was a different story. During the dinner service, Mike was at the appetizer station with Ralph Johnson. At one point, when Ralph called for a minute on his ravioli, Mike decided to pour them all into a pot early on. And this made Ralph really angry. However, I think the team was better off without his help because Mike ended up sending out a ravioli with no lobster. Ramsay then gave the team one final warning to get a grip of themselves. But instead, Mike, along with Ralph, sent up some watery ravioli. After multiple mistakes from the blue team, Chef Ramsay got the red team to help them out. During the eliminations, Mike was the blue team's first nominee. During his plea, he told Chef Ramsay that nobody wanted help from him. But Ramsay understandably asked him why his teammates didn't trust him. While he said that he didn't know, Jason jumped in and added that Mike failed to do anything of value the entire time. Mike then requested for a transfer to the red team, but the red team didn't want him at all. Since nobody wanted Mike, it doesn't surprise me that Chef Ramsay didn't want him on the show either. While throughout the competition, Mike was highly disrespectful to his teammates, he did the unthinkable after being eliminated. But this next contestant accused Chef Ramsay of sabotaging her. Wow, now that's heavy. Jen Gavin was a contestant in Season 4 who ranked in 4th place. Jen also came back in Season 18 and ranked in 15th place. Yeah, Jen knew how to cook and showed quite a few leadership skills, but she wasn't exactly a team player. She often fought with her teammates, disrespected them, and argued with them. As a result, none of her teammates even liked her. Moreover, Jen even argued with the sous chef and didn't even spare Chef Ramsay. On the first day during the dinner service, Jen served as a floater. When she saw Sharon Stewart struggling with the appetizers, Jen started to push Sharon around. Then, both of them gave different timings on their appetizers, much to Chef Ramsay's annoyance. After Sharon started to struggle, Chef Ramsay assigned Jen to the appetizer station. While she claimed to have tremendous skill despite her age, Chef Ramsay discovered that she flipped quail eggs when they weren't even needed. Later, when Chef Ramsay made Rosanne Fama the team leader, Jen was unhappy since he should have chosen her. With her finally sending out a good risotto, the red team started pushing out their appetizers and eventually won the service. In the second episode after losing the challenge, Jen got upset with the red team for choosing Corey Erling. Corey lost the round to Ben Kaler, and that led to the red team losing. During the punishment, she continued to be a sore loser and blamed Corey for everything. Even though Christina Mackimer reminded her that it was a team failure, Jen continued to be mad.
All of our fault, we're a team. Sure.
But like I said earlier, Jen was a great leader. On day 4, Jen was at her best and led her team to victory. She was so good that even Chef Ramsay praised her for it. During the dinner service, Jen was at the appetizer station. Right from the very beginning, she was very vocal with the team. She gave clear instructions to Rosanne and Shayna Zadok and communicated very well. Because of Jen's strong leadership, the red team managed to complete the service. They even had time to help the blue kitchen out.
Well done.
Yes!
Get in there and help them. Move.
From day 7 onwards, however, there was a change in Jen's attitude. She started to become very unbearable. During the next dinner service, when the red team moved on to the entrees, Jen told Rosanne not to fire her order yet. But Chef Ramsay wasn't happy about this and schooled her.
I'll call out the orders. You cook, okay? Let's get that right.
Soon after, when Christina asked for the timing, Jen became unresponsive and clammed up. She even started to get angry with Chef Ramsay. Sometime later, when Rosanne sent out some raw langoustine, Chef Ramsay pulled the red team over to make them touch it. But when Chef Ramsay saw Jen walking away, he accused her of giving up. However, instead of just getting her act together, Jen made the mistake of trying to talk back. And Chef Ramsay didn't think twice before shutting her down. But it looks like the pressure was getting to Jen and she was turning into a confused mess. When Chef Ramsay asked for the garnishes, Jen wasn't ready and this pissed him off. Due to her lack of communication, he berated her.
You're one cocky lady and someone knows Jack. You know that.
Jen obviously wasn't happy with how Chef Ramsay was belittling her. Despite all of the problems, it was surprising to see the red team win the service. After the elimination round, Chef Ramsay asked the red team who wanted to switch over to the blue team. Knowing how much the red team disliked Jen's attitude, Corey tried to convince her to volunteer, which irritated Jen. However, the next morning, Jen surprisingly volunteered to go to the blue team. But once there, rather than trying to get along with the team, Jen started to get on their nerves. During the 20 ingredients challenge, Jen picked everything from her dish without asking anyone. At one point, when Bobby Anderson revealed that his veal was subpar, Jen arrogantly suggested that LaRosse Adrenaline could do some surf and turf with it. With only a few minutes left for plating, Jen got annoyed with LaRosse since he wasn't doing things correctly. When the time was up, LaRosse forgot to add the veal. And Jen tried to convince him to lie to Chef Ramsay that he used 5 ingredients instead of 4. However, LaRosse didn't take Jen's advice and told Chef Ramsay the truth. And this made Jen furious. As a result, the blue team was disqualified since LaRosse hadn't added the veal. During the punishment, Jen constantly complained about the loss and even gave attitude to Jean-Philippe. When Jean-Philippe inquired about if she would be sour all day, this is how she reacted.
I think it's not fair for your colleagues.
It's not fair that I'm here, so whatever. My dish was flawless.
Later on, Jen and LaRosse were constantly picking on each other. The next day, during the relay challenge, Jen was getting on her teammates' nerves yet again with her attitude.
Ouch! Ouch!
Ouch!
As soon as I left that kitchen, I said, you got all your stuff here. You don't have to run for nothing. And it was up to her.
She was confident about her dish, but when it came to judging the scallops, Chef Ramsay noticed that the scallops were raw in the center, and Jen wasn't happy about this. Then, when Ramsay was about to judge her John Dory, he noticed that the sauce was missing. Jen then mumbled something under her breath, and Chef Ramsay schooled her for giving him an attitude.
Come on. We're in a professional establishment. Chef, no sauce. I forgot. I burnt it.
Speaking of ridiculous moments, can you believe that someone actually sent an incomplete plate to the pass? So what happened is, during season 15's ingredient number challenge, Joe took a bold step. Wanting to ensure that his lobster wasn't overdone, he decided to give it a taste test. Feeling a little adventurous, he aimed to spruce up his dish, admitting that he hadn't really fancied up lobster before.
So I gotta jazz it up a little bit and taste it along the way just to make sure it's cooked properly.
When it was his turn, Joe nervously presented his lobster creation to Chef Ramsay, marking the third blue team member to face the judgment. This landed him head-to-head against Jackie in the lobster round, both vying to impress the chef. His offering for the challenge was a 3-ingredient warm lobster salad coupled with corn and couscous. However, Chef Ramsay wasn't impressed with the dish's appearance.
Looks like the size of a prawn. Where's the lobster? I can't see the tail, I can't see the claw, I can't see the knuckles.
When he inquired about the lobster, Joe admitted to tasting it, leading Chef Ramsay to emphasize that the challenge was about cooking and not indulging in a taste test.
So you tasted the piece, the claw, the knuckle.
I did, Chef.
Did you taste the tail?
I believe so, Chef.
I mean, that was hilarious. Despite Chef Ramsay feeling shortchanged and somewhat let down by Joe's approach, he did acknowledge the dish's delightful taste and commendable flavor profile. However, Joe fell short in that round, losing to Jackie. And that's when Chef Ramsay dropped him a golden nugget of advice.
Young man, next time, have a bigger breakfast, will you, first?
Yes, Chef.
Alright, let's see what happened when Scott was cooking tableside in season 18. During his first and last dinner service, he held down the fish station alongside Jose. In a crucial moment, he sent up shrimp, mistakenly preparing only enough for one order. He actually believed that he heard an order for just one instead of two earlier on.
What do you need, Chef?
Oh my God!
When Scott sought Chef Ramsay's guidance on what was required, Ramsay's response was loud and clear. He urgently demanded the additional shrimp for the second risotto, emphasizing its necessity. But Scott defended himself. He felt a tad bit confused about Chef Ramsay's instructions and wanted the pace to ease up a little bit.
I need him to slow down to be able to process that information.
Trying to fix things, Scott sent out 6 shrimp thinking he needed more, even though he only needed 3 extra for the order. This move annoyed Chef Ramsay and sous chef Christina to no end.
6 shrimp, Chef.
Oh my God, you only need 3 now. You already cooked 3.
As if that wasn't enough, Chef Ramsay caught Scott cooking more shrimp, thinking it was for the ongoing orders. However, Scott clarified that he was prepping them for the tableside service.
Pardon?
You'd already done the order! It's gone!
Tableside.
Oh man, Chef Ramsay wasn't having it. He pointed out that the tableside was Scott Lee's duty, not Scott's. To drive the point home, Chef Ramsay took Scott to Scott Lee, causing Scott some serious embarrassment amongst the team.
Tableside means it's sat next to the table.
Yes, Chef. This is so embarrassing.
Scott, your journey on HK was short-lived, but you were fascinating. Though, maybe Chef Ramsay would use a different F word for you. I'll leave that one up to your imagination. By the way, here's a pro kitchen tip I came across in America's most influential food magazine, Bon Appetit. It says, for perfectly cooked fish and meat, use a cake tester. Well, they forgot to mention this tip doesn't work in Gordon Ramsay's kitchen. During the steak night dinner service, Vlad manned the meat station, checking the steaks for their temperature. After confirming the readiness of the steaks, he gave Alejandro the green light to send out a salmon. However, despite Vlad's approval, Alejandro served raw fish, leading Chef Ramsay to showcase the error to the blue team. To add to the mishap, Ramsay discovered that the ribeye was also undercooked.
That's not pink, that's raw. That's the ribeye. Oh, undercooked. Yeah, they're both under.
Acknowledging the blunder, Vlad swiftly secured approval for a refire. In the subsequent order, he aimed for accuracy and confidence. He employed a cake tester to gauge the warmth of the dishes before sending them out.
I'm gonna give them a little cake test at the end, make sure that they're warm throughout, to make sure that all the steaks come out perfectly.
When the entrees made their way back to Chef Ramsay, he brought the blue team into the back pantry for a revealing moment. To the team's dismay, Ramsay pointed out that the fillets were served cold.
Just touch that, touch that. This is a joke. It's a salmon, it's a fillet.
Feeling the weight of the failure, Vlad experienced embarrassment.
I feel like Jack on the Titanic. I'm deep in freezing waters and I'm
right on. Amidst the tension, Alex stepped in to assist Vlad with the steaks. However, Abe expressed doubt, feeling that Vlad should have been more competent in handling the task.
Vlad, you know how to cook steak. You work at a damn steakhouse, man.
Now, Vlad stood as the blue team's initial nominee for elimination, accompanied by Alejandro as the second nominee. The former faced elimination due to his subpar performance on the meat station and his apparent misuse of a cake tester.
You need to know the difference between a meat thermometer and a cake tester.
In his defense, he maintained that he stayed authentic to himself during his plea and lamented that the cake tester incident negatively affected his performance. Ultimately, this led to his elimination from the competition. But Chef Ramsay was unmoved.
It's called cake tester for a reason. It tests cakes, not steaks. Vlad, that was bad.
Stone cold. Anyway, this reminds me of a certain someone. Any guesses who? None other than the deer in the headlights, Melinda.
Look at all this fucking... Who's putting all this in the bin?
During her only dinner service, Melinda was paired with Lovely at the appetizer station. But their performance was marked with so much inconsistency. Their struggle reached a peak when they had to redo a capellini pasta dish for the first table an astonishing 8 times.
We've only had one table, but have made the same dish 6 million times.
On the 8th attempt, Tennille, concerned about the pasta's doneness, asked Melinda if it was properly cooked. Melissa insisted that it was, yet Chef Ramsay determined that it was still undercooked.
Nah, it's not cooked.
Adding to the chaos, Melinda made a critical mistake by carelessly discarding the pasta into the trash bin. She mistakenly believed that this was the right way to rectify the issue somehow.
What do? You just trash it straight away. Just put it back on the stove, put a lid on top, and 30 seconds cooking it.
The amount of food being wasted here hurts my soul. It, of course, upset Chef Ramsay, who intended for her to salvage the dish by simply returning it to the stove to finish cooking. Because, like, duh. Then, Chef Ramsay stumbled upon an alarming sight. Melinda had recklessly wasted far more pasta than he initially had thought. She'd been pulling this little stunt since the start of the service. Visibly horrified, he began removing the vast pile of wasted pasta, shocking not only himself, but also the rest of the women in the kitchen. Chef Ramsay demanded an explanation about the extent of the wasted pasta. However, Melinda appeared to be way too stunned to respond, and her eyes were wide with disbelief.
Hey, madam, how much capellini are you throwing away? What are you doing?
That was a crazy look. As the chaos intensified, Chef Ramsay reached his limit and shut both kitchens down. While the teams were cleaning up, Melinda, still wearing a shocked expression, seemed unable to snap out of her daze. Later on, during the lineup, Chef Ramsay delivered a stern warning to Melinda, emphasizing that her time in the competition was dwindling.
Melinda, lovely. You are running out of time.
Melinda found herself as the red team's initial choice for elimination, swiftly followed by Amanda. Her elimination stemmed from being obviously the worst performer of the night. And of course, her lack of enthusiasm to compete didn't contribute very positively to her standing in the competition.
I really was looking forward to spending more time with Chef Ramsay. I'd love to make you a 4-course dinner, and you can see exactly what kind of talent I have.
Oof. Okay, now who remembers Kenneth's cheese potato fiasco? During the Creative Shrimp Challenge, eager to make amends for his earlier lackluster performance in the Signature Dish Challenge, Kenneth expressed a strong desire to prove his culinary skills to Chef Ramsay. He even credited his great-grandmother's influence as motivation.
I didn't learn from a cookbook, I didn't go to culinary school, I learned from my great-grandmother.
When sous chef Jay was tasked with identifying 2 of the weakest dishes from the blue team, Kenneth found himself as the primary nomination, followed by Elliot as the second choice. They were paired with Nikki and Jordan from the red team for potential elimination. Now, Kenneth approached Chef Ramsay with a blend of nerves and prayers to the shrimp gods for luck. His offering? A shrimp penne pasta jazzed up with sauteed peppers and bacon. But the famous chef spotted something peculiar on the plate.
What the fuck is that? I have no clue, Chef. It looked like a potato, and I didn't even use potatoes.
Chef Ramsay revealed the mystery clump for everyone else to see. He sought confirmation if anyone among the men had included potato in their dishes.
Blue team, we have a potato that has dropped in Kenneth's dish. Who's got potato in their fucking dish?
To the chef's collective denial, Chef Ramsay orchestrated a tasting session for Kenneth in order to put the mystery to bed once and for all.
Taste that. It's a block of Parmesan, you fucking donut.
I grated the Parmesan cheese.
Grated? It's a block of Parmesan in there.
No way. In an attempt to justify the mishap, Kenneth insisted that he grated the cheese. However, a revealing flashback showed a little bit of a different story. There was a moment where he sliced off a chunk onto the plate without even realizing it. After an unpalatable taste experience, Kenneth attempted to salvage the situation. He argued that he knew the disparity between potato and cheese, but adamantly claimed that the clump resembled a potato.
Yo, I know the difference between a potato and Parmesan cheese, but it looked just like a potato.
Come on, man, what was that? Ultimately, Chef Ramsay delivered his verdict, labeling the dish as a complete disaster. But imagine what it's like to finish things off in 3rd place in one season and screw up pretty much everything in the next. Yep, that's exactly what happened with Dana. Honestly, she should have never come back for season 17. The red team started off well with the appetizers, but as soon as they moved on to the entrees, problems came left and right. Now, Dana Cohen was working at the meat station, and when Chef Ramsay asked her for an update on the meat, she noticed that the Wellingtons were scorched.
Oh my god. Guys, I have to refire the Wellingtons.
She required 20 minutes for the refire, and for that, Dana asked Chef Ramsay if he could flip to another ticket. Basically, she just wanted to move on to the next ticket while the Wellingtons were cooking. And well, Chef Ramsay surprisingly allowed it. But it's what happened next that made him furious. When Dana sent her lamb to the pass, it came out raw and Ramsay was done giving her chances.
Everyone's walking around like we're just All stars. We are currently behind.
It was astonishing to see Dana struggling at the meat station because she was so good in season 10. Back then, she ranked in 3rd place and was even allowed to keep her jacket because of her extraordinary performance. So where did all that passion go? When Dana was on the last ticket, she believed that she had everything under control. However, when she sent the Wellingtons to the pass, this is how they turned out.
Just look at the colour of that beef.
I'm a cook, chef.
Yeah, he's overcooked.
In the hopes of saving her own butt, Dana went back to get some backup. But when she eventually sent her dish to the pass, it came out raw, and this left Chef Ramsay in great dismay.
I don't know where to go.
Come on, Dana.
I don't know where to
Don't
go.
stall us on the last ticket.
Ramsay was actually so disappointed that he sent the entire red team back to the dorms and finished the desserts with sous chef Christina. After a really poor performance, Dana's nomination wasn't much of a shocker. And despite Elise Harris being a strong contender for elimination, Chef Ramsay based all his decisions on performance alone and not personal feelings. Which is why Dana was asked to leave.
First of all, I couldn't wait to bring you back. But unfortunately, today has been one of the worst days you ever had.
Of course, with her talent and skills, she could have gone much farther in the competition. However, it looks like there was an issue. Not with Dana, but her oven. I came across a claim on Reddit where a user had to share some inside information. Apparently, sous chef Christina said that Dana's oven was defective, which is what screwed up her Wellingtons. Now, clearly that wasn't aired as a part of the show. But if that was the case, I think her elimination was totally unfair. There have been worse contestants who were given more chances, and Dana definitely deserved one. What do you think? Was Chef Ramsay even aware of the oven issue, or did Dana just truly screw up? Well, it's not the first time Hell's Kitchen equipment had issues. But you know how when everything else fails, the sous chefs are always there to take charge and save the day. But this next contestant decided to screw up on one of the sous chefs' most important days, their wedding service. And trust me, what was supposed to be a memorable night turned out to be a dreadful one. This happened in season 15 when Hell's Kitchen took on the responsibility of cooking for sous chef Andy's wedding service. I know, definitely not a day to fool around, right? But one contestant failed to receive this important memo. I knew this was going to be a rocky ride right from the appetizer round. But when it came to the entrees, it was nothing short of a disaster. Hassan Musulmani, who was at the meat station, frustrated just about everyone with his performance, and this infuriated Chef Ramsay. If you remember, Hassan was running around like a headless chicken much before the prep even started. Sometime later, when Jared Bobkin then communicated with Hassan about the timing, both of them got started with their orders. However, despite all the communication, they sent chicken that was pink, and Ramsay couldn't believe it.
This is not happening.
What was happening here? Chef Ramsay only wanted the best for sous chef Andy, but it looks like things were gonna go south real soon.
One more mistake, and I am going to kick you all out.
Imagine checking every last detail to perfection and realizing that something as important as food got messed up? That's exactly what the wedding planner was going through.
They just need to regroup, get their heads together.
All right, are they regrouped? Are their heads together?
We hope so.
Well, she definitely had enough reason to worry because only half the guests were being served. And guess what? Even the groom's mother hadn't received any food yet.
Where's our food? Do you want mine, Mom? Split it 4 ways.
Well, seriously, you think the mother of the bride could get some food around here?
That's how backed up the Red Kitchen was. I don't think there could be any bigger embarrassment than this. So Chef Ramsay dragged the red team into the pantry and whipped them left, right, and center.
Can't do this to me. Who cooked the chicken?
Hassan first took the blame, but also revealed that he had some backup ready. And thankfully, their third attempt was actually accepted. Even though both teams did complete the service, it was nothing like Chef Ramsay had hoped for. Sous chef Andy deserved better, and Ramsay was embarrassed beyond measure.
I couldn't even look Andy in the eyes. I was that embarrassed.
It looks like Chef Andy didn't make a good guest at Hell's Kitchen. One of the viewers recalled that she actually had to cook her own appetizers in another season. Do you know which one? Help me out in the comments with that, please. Anyway, another user joked about the possibility of Chef Andy having to cook and finish the service of her own wedding. Well, I'm glad things didn't go that bad, and she actually left Hell's Kitchen as a happy bride that night. Actually, I think Chef Ramsay should have known better and never hosted a wedding service here. Because if you know from experience, the outcome has never been great. What makes me say this though? Do you guys remember the 5th episode of season 3? That was the first time Hell's Kitchen catered a wedding service. And it went terribly. Now, this next contestant ended up taking on a role she wasn't even assigned to and ended up wrecking her entire team's performance. In the end, everyone was embarrassed, but more so Chef Ramsay. What happened is, like in any other challenge, Ramsay introduced a twist in this wedding service. Both teams were given a time limit of 30 minutes to shop with a budget of $100. And then they had another hour to cook their dishes for the wedding planning challenge. At the start of the challenge, Melissa Firpo turned out to be the self-appointed leader that no one wanted. Out of absolutely nowhere, Melissa took the responsibility of making decisions, and that was her first mistake. All of her decisions were questionable, and I wonder why the rest of the team just went with it. Right from the time of shopping, Melissa suggested that the team use duck as their main dish instead of lamb. Although the red team was concerned about the cooking time limit, they still went along with Melissa's decision.
Is that going to be feasible for all those people for the wedding reception?
They probably didn't want to argue, but this decision was going to cost them heavily. When the red team started to cook their dishes, Melissa started to act all high and mighty.
If anybody has a question, let's just ask me, since that's what the chef's been doing.
There was a time when Julia Williams decided to sear the duck breast, and Melissa just interjected and told her to do something else. She even insulted Bonnie Muirhead by asking Julia not to listen to her.
Supposed to listen to me, not Bonnie.
I'm not sure what kind of leader she wanted to be, but like I said, everything she was doing was wrong. When Julia took out the duck breast from the oven, Melissa oddly placed it back into the oven to keep it warm. Did she forget that she'd cooked the meat even further? In the end, the duck was incredibly overcooked, and the worst part was that Melissa refused to take responsibility for it. What happened next was pretty expected.
It's overdone.
I know, you made it overdone.
I didn't make it overdone. Your job, your station.
The red team sadly didn't have enough time to make another one, and when it was time, this was what Chef Ramsay had to say.
You're standing there acting like some jumped up little cave woman.
Well, I hope that helps her stay grounded, but the damage was already done and the red team was about to face the heat. When Melissa learned that the couple would be judging this dish, she was stunned. She told Chef Ramsay that the red team should just skip the challenge, and what do you think Ramsay said?
This is barely 24 hours before their big day. You are not going to spoil it.
Well, it's way too late to change your mind now, sweetheart. But Chef Ramsay had no idea that the dish was already spoiled. He only realized how bad things were when he served the dish. And at that point, I think the famous chef thought it would have been better if he had just listened to Melissa. Because, well, who expected contestants from Hell's Kitchen, seasoned chefs who made it this far into the competition, to serve something as hideous as this?
Right.
While an embarrassed Chef Ramsay passed the tasting, viewers were quick to judge the dish by the looks of it. One said that the duck looked like a loaf of bread made out of rubber, while another said that Melissa efficiently forced her team into making a rubber duck that they never wanted to. Melissa's poor leadership left Chef Ramsay so embarrassed that he actually had to hide his face behind his hands. He must have been wondering why he didn't eliminate her sooner. But this next contestant screwed up another memorable event for a VIP. And this time, it was a birthday party. Looks like this birthday party wasn't gonna be much of a celebration. And what's even crazier is whose birthday it was. Any guesses? It was Chef Ramsay's daughter Megan's 21st birthday. And well, she wanted to party with style, but what she got was hell. In the 6th episode of the 20th season, Megan's table was split between both teams. The deal was to make sure that all the food was sent out at the same time. With just 2 to 3 mistakes during the appetizer round, both teams finished things off at a good pace. However, during the entrees, Peyton Cooper sank the boat. Peyton was at the meat station with Sam Garman. On the first ticket, one of the steaks they sent up to the pass was rare, and then on the refire, the meat had raw fat on it. That's a really sad start, and it looks like the red team needed to step up their game.
Me, I got one medium rare, one rare. Come on, back in the pan, hurry up. It's raw white fat, come on, back in the pan.
When the next order for Megan's table came, Peyton was confident about the pad thai since he had cooked noodles before, but it was returned for being bland.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
Let me take care of this.
Thank you very much.
Chef Ramsay was beginning to sense trouble, and he had to check it on time before things blew up, so he said this.
What was that taste like to you?
Nothing.
Who seasoned that?
When Ramsay demanded an answer, not one person spoke up. Finally, the rest of the team threw Peyton under the bus, and he had to own up, leaving Ramsay dismayed. But when Peyton along with 4 others sent a raw lamb to the pass, Chef Ramsay kicked them all out of the kitchen.
With 3 nominees because I'm cutting the fat quickly. All of you, get out!
5 contestants working on 1 order of lamb and it came out raw? That's peak incompetence. However, this next contestant chose to screw around on another important day. This time, it was time for the fashionistas to taste a piece of Hell's Kitchen. I'm talking about season 10 when Hell's Kitchen was geared up to host a fashion night. During the fashion night planning challenge, Chef Ramsay asked both teams to make an appetizer and 2 entree dishes. One would be seafood and the other one would be poultry. Both teams had to follow the instructions given by the fashion designer and create a dish accordingly. Robin Almodovar and Kimmy Willis worked together, and knowing that they were the best of friends, this challenge should have been a breeze. But I was wrong, very wrong. Usually, to impress someone, chefs always go for their favorites, but Robin had other plans. She didn't want to work with the swordfish even though one of the judges loved it, and the reason behind this was so foolish.
Swordfish is like a tuna, and I don't really like cooking with that. That's what he said he liked.
Well, I guess she forgot she was preparing a dish for the judges and not herself. Despite Kimmy's quick reminder, Robin was adamant and pushed for sea bass instead. To make things worse, Robin wanted to serve the sea bass in its natural flavors, so she only used salt and pepper. How do you think that must have turned out? I don't have any hope for this poor fish, but Robin was confident somehow. When Robin presented her dish, Amanda Chi was drawn to the dish because of the color. But Meister, who loves swordfish, wasn't impressed with the presentation. Those are some mixed reactions, right?
I'm drawn to it because of the pink and green at the bottom.
It just needs to be sharper and more precise.
So how is the salt and pepper flavored fish though?
Quite bland. What about spices? What about zesty? What about pungent?
I can't believe Robin actually felt insulted after hearing the feedback. Like, what exactly was she expecting? Kimmy had warned her about it way before, and had she listened to it then, things could have been different.
You ladies come back here and try to cook in your damn stiletto heels.
Thanks to Robin's lack of self-awareness, the red team lost the round.
We asked for something spicy.
I told her 3 times we need to add spice, and it was like she didn't want to listen.
Most viewers think that this is when the bad blood between Robin and Kimmy took shape, but I think it was the incident that happened in the 9th episode.
I'm not pissed off at you. Talk to me. I just want to talk to you.
Chef Ramsay was amazed that 2 chefs put their heads together and presented such a hideous dish. Poor Kimmy had to face the heat for this too. But Robin just couldn't keep calm. Back at the dorms, she started to bitch about Kimmy, and this turned into a whole different mess.
I didn't call her out up there. Kimmy never takes fault for anything.
You see how the tide turned in just a second? It was supposed to be a team effort, Robin. I found a Reddit post that described this episode as a horror show. Well, that pretty much sums up what happened. But who knows, there may be more times when chefs mess up real bad and blame it on others in the future.